This is your tech news briefing for Monday, January 23rd. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. For 2 years, China has been cracking down on the power of its biggest tech companies. This has spanned sectors: e-commerce, gaming, ride-hailing. But now, officials are signaling their investigations and regulatory demands may be coming to an end. So, what has this multi-year crackdown done to China's tech industry? And how different will the environment be going forward? With me to go through this is our Asia tech reporter, Liza Lin. Hi, Liza. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Zoe.
These investigations and crackdowns have been running for some time. Can you give us an update? Where exactly do they stand now?
Yeah, so Zoe, there's been a few developments in China over the last month that have led investors to kind of speculate that this long 24-month crackdown is finally abated. Because if you recall, more than 2 years ago, the crackdown really began when the authorities pulled the IPO of Ant Group, which is a financial payments affiliate of Alibaba and controlled by Jack Ma, a really iconic tech founder. So since then, we've seen companies large and small get hit by fines for various infractions such as data security or monopolistic business practices. And overall, the industry crackdown resulted in plunging share prices of these previously really high-flying and popular Chinese tech companies. So what happened over the last month that gave investors pause and people confidence is three things. Last Monday, when authorities kind of indicated that a probe into a large internet ride-hailing company called Didi was coming to an end. And Didi, if people don't remember, and I can refresh your memory, they had user registrations pulled in about 18 months ago when they tried to launch a huge IPO in the US. And at that point, Didi was pointed out to have flouted data security requirements. So that was a very big one. And a week before the Didi announcement, we also had officials with the central bank announcing that the investigations into Ant Group, which is the mobile payment affiliate of Alibaba, had come to an end. And that Ant had essentially rectified everything authorities had found to be wrong and was ready to get the licenses it needed to operate again. And just, subsequent to this as well, we also saw some silver lining on the video gaming front when China began to approve the release of new video games after it stopped approving video game releases in June 2021. So it's a combination of all these things that have made people just a lot more optimistic.
You mentioned some of the investigations that seem to be wrapping up, and of course this spans, different sectors within tech. But can you remind us, how much power did China's tech sector have before this all began?
Sure. If you go back to more than 3 years ago, it seemed like the largest Chinese internet companies such as Alibaba and Tencent had their finger wrapped around every sort of industry possible that you could digitize. And really, I think that was the reason why Chinese authorities began this crackdown in the first place. So now, since then, you've seen Tencent unwind a lot of investments in businesses that are really very peripheral or not core to its operations. So they've unwinded stakes in e-commerce companies, for example, and Tencent is a video gaming and social media giant.
Have authorities in China said anything specifically about this pullback?
With China, it's always very difficult to ascertain when exactly the end of a crackdown would be. But most of the statements that have come out over the last couple of weeks have been very optimistic. Beyond the statements by the central bank saying that the Ant Group investigation is over, you've also seen the local government in Hangzhou, where Alibaba is based, come out to praise Alibaba for years of actually adding to the economy, and they recently signed a strategic cooperation with the company again. All these are just indications that the chill around tech companies and doing business with tech companies is gradually thawing.
Does it seem then like Chinese officials feel like they've accomplished what they wanted to?
I think in several areas, they've definitely got what they wanted. They've broken up the large monopolies that have existed in the internet space, and they've also broken up the power structures that were behind these monopolies. So just before the Ant Group investigation ended, you saw Jack Ma giving up a controlling stake in Ant Group. That's probably one of the signs that tech founders now don't have the same sort of power and influence they had over their large empires as they did 3 years ago, for example. And it isn't just Jack Ma. You've definitely seen other tech founders either give up huge stakes in their companies in the name of charity or simply just sell them off. So you've definitely seen an unwinding the power stakes behind these companies. And when it comes to investment in startups and various tech industries, the Chinese government has definitely accomplished its aim because you've also seen a flowering of startups in areas such as chips, enterprise software, biotech, all areas that the Chinese government had already wanted to divert investment to, but was unable to because the internet consumer space had taken up so much of that venture capital money. And I guess I would point out that even if the tech crackdown on the surface seems to be winding down, it doesn't mean that the new normal is that companies are going to be free of regulation or oversight. Even as the crackdown was winding down, we've also seen more cases of the Chinese internet watchdog take these small but very symbolic stakes in internet and broadcast companies, which essentially give them a seat on the board and gives them influence over the type of content strategies that these private companies have.
It sounds like they've accomplished what they wanted, but Liza, at what cost did it take to get there?
Yes, and that's a great question, Zoe, because ever since the tech clampdown has started, we've seen large layoffs in Chinese tech companies. And this has come over the last 2 years when job creation and unemployment numbers among younger people have already been rising. And last year in 2022, the country's economy and its growth has already been battered by zero COVID policies. And these internet companies, had they been thriving, would have been able to bolster tax revenues in local government coffers, where they were headquartered, of course, should they not have been clamped down on.
All right, that's our Asia Tech reporter, Liza Lin. Liza, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks again, Zoe.
And that's it for today's Tech News Briefing. For more tech stories, head over to our website, WSJ.com. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for listening.